TYT Sports talking boxing as always, finally, with Robert Exel, the editor-in-chief of boxing.com. Robert, how are you today?
I'm great, Rick. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to talk to you again. We have a fantastic fight Saturday night at Oracle Arena, basically in Andre Ward's backyard with, I gave away one fighter, Andre Ward and Chad Dawson. Both of them are certainly in the prime of their careers. Andre Ward coming off a huge win over Nottingham's Carl Froch. Meanwhile, for Chad Dawson, he sent Bernard Hopkins into retirement. Between the two of them, they have one loss. Now, a lot of people may be criticizing this fight and thinking that both fighters are boring and that it's too technical, but let's just start off with each individual fighter. We'll work our way there. Start out with Andre Ward. He has a snapping jab. He throws from every which angle. He's like a grasshopper in the ring when he explodes through his punches. He hops into them. Is there any criticism or flaw that you see in this guy?
I don't see a flaw. The people who fight him see a flaw. They think that he has been... People have accused him of being a dirty fighter because he uses his elbows, he uses his head, he uses whatever he needs to use. He does have a toolbox. The toolbox is filled to overflowing. Some of the tools there are legitimate. Some of them are not altogether legitimate. But I don't see a flaw in Andre Ward's game. I love watching Andre Ward perform. I think he's one of the best boxers alive today, and there's nothing I like more than to watch him fight.
Andre Ward, the 2004 Olympic gold medalist, number 5 or number 6 in the pound-for-pound ratings, depending on which website you go to. Either way, a top-notch fighter. Again, certainly in the prime of his career. By the way, that fight against Carl Froch, he won with a broken left hand. So in case you want to knock on the guy for many things, heart certainly is not one of them. So now we move to Chad Dawson, who has I believe, a 5.5 reach advantage. Yes, 76.5 to Andre Ward's 71. Has roughly 1 to 2. I've even seen some websites that say he has a 3-inch height advantage. We'll meet the medium and say 2. You know, Chad Dawson, obviously, as I said, knocked out Bernard Hopkins, or didn't knock him out, but sent him into retirement. Do you think that Chad Dawson has the skills to possibly give Andre Ward a tough time in the ring?
I do. I think Chad Dawson is a good fighter. If he uses his height, if he uses his length, if he uses his reach, I mean, he can be a superb fighter. Chad's problem has really been that he doesn't always have a fire lit under him. Yes. I mean, sometimes he fights in a lackadaisical fashion as though it doesn't matter whether he wins or loses, which, of course, is death to a fighter because... any fighter who has that attitude, is that the other fighter is going to exploit it. And, of course, Ward, as we know, is an expert at exploiting others' weaknesses. He always seems to find a way to win. And, again, different fighters, different styles, different size fighters, he always manages to win. I wouldn't count Dawson out in this fight, not by a long shot. But he did come down in weight towards super middleweight limit. He apparently looks very skinny at the weigh-in. He'll rehydrate. He'll gain weight, but I think Dawson's in for a pretty rough night.
He dropped 7 pounds to reach Andre Ward at 168. He has been quoted routinely leading up to this fight that I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. We're not going to have an Adrian Broner, Bam Bam Rio certain situation where I can't make weight. I'll be fine. Did he say that verbatim? No. I threw before you try and attack Chad Dawson, I threw those names in there for you. But one thing that you said I have to highlight is that sometimes he lacks having that fire in him. And one thing that I've noticed, especially in the Jean Pascal fight, which took place in Montreal at the Bell Center, you know, it seems like at times he will not take rounds off, but he'll let his fighter dictate the tempo, and he'll allow himself to be stalked throughout the ring. And basically, I think tempo is a big part of his game and even winning fights. Do you see that at all in his game?
Well, I agree with you completely. He does allow fighters to often dictate the pace of the fight, which is a huge mistake with Andre Ward. I mean, because Andre Ward would like nothing better than to dictate the pace of the fight. But Dawson has got to use his size. He's got to use the advantages he's bringing with him into the ring. And if he fails to do that, I mean, Ward is simply going to take advantage of him. He's not going to walk over him. Ward is not the type of fighter who walks over people. He's a boxer. He's a boxer-puncher, but he's a boxer primarily. He doesn't score knockouts. I mean, he basically outboxes, out-toughs his opponents. But I think that, again, I would not count Dawson out. If Ward has a bad night and everybody has a bad night, Dawson could walk away with a victory. He won't knock Ward out, but he's possible. And not likely, but it's possible he'll win a decision. The
WBA, WBC, and Ring Magazine super middleweight titleist is Andre Ward. We look at the tail of the tape right now. Dawson has 2 years on Andre Ward, 30 to his 28. Andre Ward 25-0 to Chad Dawson's 31-1. Neither of them possesses great knockout power. They combined for 30 knockouts overall. Again, the height advantage and reach advantage goes in favor of Dawson, and Dawson is the southpaw. One thing that he was quoted as saying, bad Chad this is, he was quoted as saying, the state boxing is in, we need a great fight like this. Do you agree with that?
I do indeed. I do indeed. Again, this is not going to be a fight for the rank and file. This is going to be a fight for the connoisseurs, for the cognoscenti. This is not going to be demolition derby. We should not go into this expecting that we're going to see Gotti Ward 4. It's not going to be that kind of fight. These guys who are smart, it's going to be a chess match, but instead of using pieces on a chessboard, they're going to be using fists in a ring. There's going to be a lot of subtlety. There's going to be a lot happening. This is really going to be the sweet science in action. It ought to be a terrific fight. Again, not going to be for everybody, but for those who really know and appreciate boxing, this is the fight for them.
Another quote that I want to read to you is from Andre Ward, basically complimenting himself, saying, "My mindset is my major attribute. It's proven Chad has had mental lapses. It boils down to who wants it more, and I believe with my intensity that I do." Robert Exel, what's your reaction to that?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think Andre Ward has really given a perfect description of Chad Dawson and a perfect description of himself. I mean, Ward has no lapses of attention. He's a smart fighter. He fights every fight as though it's a 3-minute fight. Unlike most fighters who figure, I got to go 12 rounds, Ward is going 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3-minute rounds. So he's very extremely focused. If he wins the rounds, he pockets the rounds. He knows that a fight is not simply 12 rounds. I mean, it is. If he wins the rounds, he's going to win the fight. He knows it, and again, he knows himself, and he hasn't lost since he's been a little boy. So Ward has got a lot of confidence, and justifiably so.
The last time Andre Ward knocked out an opponent was in 2009 against Shelby Pudwill. Again, in 2009, that came in the 3rd round of that fight. I believe it aired on Showtime. Can Andre Ward knock out Chad Dawson? I mean, we know that, yes, boxing can be settled by one punch. You never know when it can happen. But with these guys and their track record, both of their resumes, we obviously know incredibly well. Do you think that Andre Ward can knock out Chad Dawson?
I do not think that that's going to happen. I think it's a possibility, but I do not think it's going to happen. If you look at their records, both of these guys have got great chins, and both of these guys have excellent defense as well. So it's not going to happen. I mean, anybody who's going into this fight expecting a knockout is going to be very disappointed. But anybody who goes into this fight looking to see, two exemplary boxers at the top of their game going at it, there will be no disappointment whatsoever.
You said that at the press conferences, Chad Dawson looked skinny. And I mean, from my perception, when I hear that, I think that a guy going down in weight, 7 pounds, granted he has fought there before, but going down in weight, that he may look a little drained. So I have to ask you this, how good, put this fight aside for just a moment, how good can Chad Dawson be at 168?
I think Chad Dawson can be as good as Chad Dawson wants to be. Again, it all sort of falls on Chad's shoulders. His problem is really not one of not one of skill. I mean, his problem is really his head and his sort of lack of enthusiasm when he's in the ring. But I think, I think Chad Dawson can be as great a fighter as he wants to be, as he proved in the second fight with Hopkins. Again, Hopkins was old, but Hopkins is as clever and as tough and as ornery as they come. And Dawson stuck at the Hopkins. So, again, I mean, the only thing that's really standing in Chad Dawson's way is Chad Dawson himself.
Floyd Mayweather has even applauded Chad Dawson on his boxing skills. Dawson, the lineal heavyweight champion, against Andre Ward, who is making his 5th title defense of the super middleweight crown. Let me ask you this. You know, there's always going to be a lot of criticisms about boxing, and there's going to be a lot of criticisms, as you discussed before in this segment, that this fight will be considered boring, and that a lot of people will be tuned out by it and turned off because there isn't going to be a lot of blood and there isn't going to be a lot of knockout punches, I guess you could say. Who knows if there will be a knockout? There certainly could on any given day. But why exactly will people have this perception? I know that I'm thinking way, way into this, but you know, obviously a lot of people cannot, I don't know, a lot of people probably can't appreciate boxing for what it is, but why exactly will many people think of these two very athletic, very skilled fighters colliding and basically labeling it boring?
Well, because it doesn't really meet their expectations. People have this understanding of boxing that it is essentially brutality. It's a couple of men pounding one another at random until one of them falls. That happens in boxing frequently, but it's not really what boxing is about. It's part of what boxing is about, but not exclusively what boxing is about. It's like going to a baseball game and having the teams trade grand slams. Everybody wants to see that. What could be more exciting than that? But what a pleasure to go to a game and actually witness a no-hitter. Not, of course, any boxing match is going to be a no-hitter, but it would be comparable, right? Because you're seeing something that is really about finesse and not power, and that's what Ward and Dawson are going to bring to us. Together,
they have 15 title fights under their belt, and together they go 13-1 with 1 no contest. So I ask you, Robert Exel, who do you have winning this fight? Do you possibly see a TKO victory or a knockout victory? I doubt it personally. I know that you do as well. But who do you see basically winning this fight?
I see Ward winning the fight by decision. It might be close, but because the fight is basically in Ward's hometown, the judges will be leaning toward him. But I think Ward is going to out-slick and out-skill Dawson anyway, even without the judges' help, and I think he's going to walk away with a decision.
So what do you say, like 8-4 in favor of the rounds?
I think it may be closer. I think 7-5.
7-5, okay. And who do you think could possibly be next for Andre Ward? I mean, next week we have Julio Cesar Chavez. I almost blanked there. Julio Cesar Chavez and Sergio Martinez. Do you think the winner of that fight should have a mandatory match with the winner of this fight, who you say will be Andre Ward?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, those Chavez and Martinez are really fighting at middleweight. These guys are at super middle, so they're not even really the same division. So I don't think that would really be appropriate. Chavez, win, lose, or draw, is still going to be carefully handled because he is a sort of a money machine. And so it's not really clear. I think the world is open to Ward. I think he may, in 4 years, 5 years, he may be recognized as maybe one of the greatest super middleweights of all time. He's certainly on the path, and he's got the skills, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
I believe Andre Ward will win as well, but just for fun, let's say if Chad Dawson were to win, what could be next for him?
Well, he could move back up in weight. That's a strong division. Or if he's comfortable, he can stay. He could stay in the super middles. We know how rich the super middleweight division is. I mean, there's Carl Froch. We can't count Lucien Boutte out. There's Mikhail Kessler. I mean, it's a rich division, richer than the light heavyweight division. So, I mean, if by any chance Dawson wins, I mean, he could really make hay among the super middleweights.
Robert Exel, the editor-in-chief of Boxing.com. You can obviously follow his fantastic writing at www.boxing.com and follow him on Twitter at @boxing_. Middleweight.com. Robert Exel, thank you so much for the time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great, Rick. Talk to you then.